are here tonight with Brooke Williamson and Nick Roberts for our first COVID check-in episode. Nick is today's dad. He's been a former guest of ours on a previous episode a couple months ago. So please make sure to check that episode out if you guys haven't. And he is joined tonight by his wife, Brooke. Brooke is a Top Chef season 14. Is that right? Season 14 winner. Deep pool. We talk all about that on Nick's episode. So like I said, it's a great spot to tune in and learn a little bit more about them. But they are chefs in the LA area. They are co-chefs and co-owners of 4 restaurants. 4 is right. Yes.
I mean, cool. We'll see what it looks like in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, so as of right now, 4.
Fair. The point of these COVID check-ins are really to get a touch base with everybody to find out how their days are going, or all of our lives are different because of COVID-19. And I want to see how you guys are faring, how your household unit is faring, how businesses are faring, and what you guys got going on. With that said, happy evening. You guys doing all right?
Happy evening. Our son is trying to open up takeout boxes. How are we doing tonight? I don't know. I just got home. Nick poured me a cocktail, so things are already looking better.
There you go. That's the way to go about doing it. So how has this impacted? I mean, it's kind of a silly question, but it's impacted everyone a little bit differently. How has this impacted you guys kind of on the home front? Let's start there before we move into the business side of it.
I would say the biggest impact on the home front is the homeschooling while trying to kind of play a giant game of catch up and pick up sticks with the rest of our careers.
Yeah.
You know, Hudson is home from school. We don't know if or when he'll be going back to school for the rest of this year, and I don't remember how to do algebra.
I really don't. He's rude. If I'm home alone with him, I'm just like,
and
we're all going to be quote unquote learning algebra together.
My personal level of patience has plummeted.
Yep. So
my ability to multitask and be level-headed about it at the same time is pretty much nil.
Yeah. Well, then it's that, and then trying to balance work. We are still going down to one of our restaurants. 3 of our restaurants are closed. 1 is still open. So we're going back and forth between one of us being with Hudson in the house and then running down to the restaurant. And then as you may or may not have mentioned, we are doing those hospital meals. So it's kind of switching off with that as well and making those deliveries. So it's I don't know. It's
just like a lot of juggling. It's a really unbalanced balancing act that we're trying to adjust to, but we don't know how long we'll be doing what we're doing today. And so there's no way to really project how we should be modifying our permanent schedules. Or
I think there's almost some like solace or comfort in the fact that like I think collectively as a society right now, none of us know what tomorrow is going to bring. So it's kind of easier to like stare into the unknown and just be like, I just got to get through today. Like, this is my plan for today. And we'll figure it out again tomorrow because nobody knows. I mean, but
at the same time, we still have vendors and landlords and employees who are coming to us and asking for advice and asking for guidance and asking for payment. And it's like,
well, the payments for the employees, that's been taken care of, but vendors, we're referring to vendors. Yeah, the payments we were trying to explain to them. I mean,
they know.
They do.
It's like they still have to send these emails that are like, when are we going to?
Where's your stuff?
But then our employees are just, I don't know if they have a comfort level. They're more worried about when they're actually going to be able to do something or when they're going to come back. We do have, as I said, 1 restaurant open, but only a quarter of it is open. So I think we have a total of, out of it,
9 employees.
So out of one, we had 80 employees in this restaurant and we're down to 9. So
not to mention the other 3 that are from a number down to 0.
Right. So the other restaurants,
So Nick, we didn't, we only talked pre-smashing record, but talk a little bit about your hospital delivery meals. talk about how that birthed out and what that project is looking like right now for you guys.
It's all you, baby.
Out of kind of necessity for trying to find a legitimate reason to keep the doors open, other than the fact that, we have a few employees left and want to serve our immediate community. We were also trying to find a way to make business at least sustainable with just takeout and delivery, and at the same time find a bigger reason as to why we are continuing to put ourselves and all of our employees who are still working in danger on a daily basis. And as much as we have told everyone that's coming in that we absolutely do not expect them to come in, nor do we want them to if they don't feel comfortable, there are a handful of employees who want to be working. And with that said, it makes it a little bit more palatable when we know that there's a bigger reason out there other than just trying to keep the doors open and pay our immediate bills and payroll. So us and another dad, we actually, that our son goes to school with, a friend of ours, we started talking about how we could potentially start an organization and raise funds to keep hospital workers, doctors, nurses, employees fed with a nutritious, hot meal while they're working ungodly hours in these conditions. And while we were calling around to hospitals to see if there was a need and to see if they could actually take in these meals, we found another group of moms that were doing exactly the same thing who were calling the same hospitals. So we joined efforts with them. And then in an effort to make it sort of a win-win for everyone and make this a fully tax deductible donation for people to make, I called a friend over at World Central Kitchen who we've worked with for years and partnered with them so that we could make this all tax deductible and potentially scalable on a national level if we were to have a proper template. And so from week one, we were feeding like 450 employees, and now we're in the thousands and have multiple restaurants involved and have raised, a good $650,000, which will keep employees fed for a couple of weeks, depending on the need. But
I know just from my experience and what I know with my wife working in an ER here in Knoxville, that what you said just about it being a warm meal. I mean, everybody, nobody in a hospital ever has time to eat anyways, even when this shit's not going on. But for it not to be, I mean, and they would be gracious and accept anything that comes to them right now. But for it to be a meal that is of nutritional value that they can actually enjoy and just take a minute to kind of decompress and have some food, like I know how much that's nourishing their souls in the just shitstorm that they're in. So
and we see it when we drop off the food, how appreciative they are.
I'm sure
it makes the whole thing really so much more worth it.
Somebody last night on one of my drop-offs was like, thank God it's not pizza. I mean, that's like this getting pizza or vending machine food or things like that.
And it's like, as much as that's sweet of people to be dropping off, these people are in situations where they need to stay as healthy and active and alert and awake as possible, and not stopping for takeout is definitely something that's important.
12 bags of Doritos for an ER doc isn't a good combo.
No.
Yeah, it's not smart. So Brooke and Nick, like what are some things that some restaurant owners around the country can do, whether it's participate in your exact mission or spark and come together in their own individual communities? Like what's kind of the path of least resistance for people that are vaguely in your shoes, that kind of want to turn their idleness into action, and have a restaurant at their disposal, because there's a lot of those people out there.
By no means are we the first ones to have done this. I mean, people started doing it in San Francisco and led the way a little bit. And there are hundreds of grassroots missions all over the country right now doing the same exact thing. It's just a matter of having the ability to organize and scale and contact. And it takes more than one person. It takes a group of people who are willing to participate on many different levels of organization and finances. And fortunately, we've kind of built that infrastructure a little bit for Los Angeles immediately, but we wouldn't be able to handle more than the immediate community here. So I think it really is a matter of people taking charge in their own communities and just figuring out the logistics of calling hospitals, seeing, a lot of hospitals have specific needs that need to be met, and methods in which things can be delivered and how they get delivered. And World Central Kitchen has a great template on how to keep restaurant employees safe while delivering the meals, but it's
because that's a big thing. I mean, that's
definitely,
Yeah.
you guys
and
are.
there's no 100% foolproof method of doing so. You have to have people that are willing to take that risk for the sake of other people. But I think that inherently that's what restaurant people do.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well said.
Agree.
Well said.
So what are you guys, to kind of pump back over to the family side of things for a minute, what are you guys doing for yourselves right now to try to keep your balance and saneness through all of this? I mean, is it finding 5 minutes to just go stand out in the yard? Is it unwinding and having a drink at the end of the night? I mean, what's working for you guys to try to have some balance?
Definitely the drink.
The bourbons.
I mean, that's where we are. So I mean, let's be honest.
Morning and yesterday morning, thinking, you know what, I'm going to go a couple of days without drinking, and then it's like 5:30, and I'm like, you know what, what's the harm in one drink?
Brooke and Hud have actually started running together. We do all try to do one activity a day, and
Good.
Physical just to kind of clear the head a little bit.
Good.
Then we have this a god awful puzzle. That's
Did you start 1,000 pluser?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's 1,000, and we're sitting here. She came home, and I was just in the puzzle.
We were in Mexico right now, so I was like, you know what, I'll get a puzzle of a tropical Mexico.
It's almost salt in the wound right there.
Little did you know that would be the tropical picture that you physically had to stare out day in and day out.
Coming.
Nor do we even really have the time to be doing puzzles. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, everybody's doing puzzles and making banana bread. We should be doing the same, right?
Yeah.
She's been baking up like crazy, and we are pretty healthy eaters. And we had a chocolate cake here.
That chocolate cake you made and put on Instagram the other day, I have been, and I'm not even like the biggest cake guy in the world, but I've been drooling over that.
Put on like 10 pounds on me. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I can take a bite. Why not?
Yeah. Or 7.
I've seen social media of the COVID-19 15 is a real thing, that people's just going to pack on the pounds. So what does?
So I've been running with our son Hudson on a daily basis. So that's like his PE turned into my exercise commitment.
Good. That's self-meditation. So what does this look like? Draw this out 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks. Like what?
9, huh?
Not, yeah, right. I don't know.
Do you like what he just did to you guys?
I don't know. It's clearly all I can do with the belt is so tight, and then you undo it one loop at a time. And I mean, we hopefully get to have less of a stronghold on this. But like, what does it look like for you guys in chapter 2 and chapter 3 and chapter 4?
And you're not talking about the quarantine 15.
No, I'm not just talking about calorie consumption.
He didn't just add 100 pounds onto you guys, no.
Well, I'd add one more layer to my cake in week 4. In week 5, I'd add bonbons to the side.
In general, I think it's just an unknown. I mean, right?
Yeah, I think we have no idea. And, I think the farther away we get from those other 3 restaurants having been open, the farther we get away from them ever being open again, which is a terrifying prospect. Playa is definitely not open to full capacity, but we're managing to make payroll. We're not making rent. We're not making utilities. We're just kind of like paying our vendors COD and paying payroll. And, but I think that'll make it a little bit more palatable to get the doors open when the time comes that we can do that. we weren't able to do that at all of our locations. So
we tried with one of our locations for a while, and it just wasn't making sense at all. And it's a takeout restaurant.
Yeah, it's just we just didn't have the businesses open in the area to support that place being open. So
Or the loans, business loans, all the.
Everybody's trying to be as helpful as possible, but at the same time, they're like, hey, if you can give us something, please give us something.
Yeah.
The loans are like a full-time job in themselves.
Oh,
sure.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
The small business loans are like.
Yeah, you have to hire somebody just to go through the process.
And we don't know who to because all that information is in the office, which means somebody has to come in and like I try to do like a little bit of it every day, but the farther away we get from completing an application, the less money there is available. It's like you have to jump on these things as they come. And it's not like we're just sitting on our asses at home. So
sure.
If we were to just sit in front of a computer all day, that would be one thing. But that's not the case. So it's really they're not user friendly. The websites were crashing. I don't know that they are anymore, but now it's like the thought of getting back into the routine of filling that stuff out again it makes me want to scream.
Sure.
Well, and like you said, there's no guarantee of how much you get. I mean, I think that's the part that makes it even that much more frightening is it's like, especially looking at, I mean, I'm not trying to like rub it in, but with you having 3 businesses that you're doing it for versus 1, exactly. I mean, that's a big.
And not only do you not know how much you're going to get or if you'll get anything.
Sure.
I've filled out several applications where they just ran out of funds. But who knows at what point you'll have to potentially pay this money back.
Yeah.
What will be forgiven, what won't be forgiven. And it's like, how much more debt can we even incur and be responsible for paying back?
Better to work within the knowns and not even mess with it if you can, if that's in the realm of possibility for you.
So this may not be a fair question to ask you guys right now. And if it's not, you can say pass and we'll edit this out. But what do you think this does in the long haul to the local independent restaurant communities? Do you think, because like what I've seen where I live is I've seen a lot of restaurants adapt with a takeout with curbside pickup and stuff. Knoxville is not LA, right? It's not that busy of a town, but I have seen a lot of people really take to this idea of being able to pick up some of this food a little bit easier, get it home a little bit easier. The bottled cocktails, I think, is something that like is a really, like, take the COVID thing aside, like that's a really cool concept if that's something that could kind of stick and last on the other side of this. And I know it won't, but I mean, do you think that this reshapes the restaurant industry a little bit? Not just because the volume won't be there, but the way in which the restaurant industry works? Or do you think it'll just go back to the way it was?
I mean,
I think it'll go eventually back to the way it was. I mean, they're going to take away like the bottle thing. We're not able to have off-premise alcohol normally, so they'll take that away, obviously. But I think it'll be baby steps to back what it was.
Go back to what it was, yeah.
But I also think after this, a lot of restaurants are going to open, so it's going to be very different out there for a second. So that's then I think why we feel it's important to try to keep one of our places open where it won't be as hard to get the doors up and going.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think once your inventory is depleted and, you know, you've thrown away all of the stuff that went bad and you've tried to sell as much as you could out the door, including your liquor and your non-perishables, then you're left with nothing, really. And to open back up as a full-service sit-down dining restaurant with zero inventory and zero in the bank and vendors who potentially won't sell to you anymore because unless you can pay them up front, it's like how I fear that you know 50% if not more people in small restaurant communities just won't have the means to continue on.
For sure. I mean, especially in California, our margins have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. That I know I can name probably 3 to 5 friends who have restaurants who will not, probably most likely will not reopen. And they had their dream place and they worked it, but they had enough for them and that was it. And you take all the bills, the past bills, and just cut it off where nobody was able to taper off. I mean, as Brooke said, we have vendors calling us just trying to get something back to them. And luckily we're able to talk to them because we do have one place open and we say, look, we're still giving you something. But,
Well, it's that circle. I mean, the vendors are hurting too. I mean, everybody, the whole supply chain is affected by this. It's not like it just
landlords who are deferring rent instead of abating rent because they have their own bills to pay and they expect to see rent at some point in the future. But at what point are we going to be able to afford to pay 3 months of back rent?
Right.
You know?
Sure.
Yeah. Guys, I'm sorry. I hate this for you all. I mean, and you all aren't alone in it. I hate it for everybody, but it's such I commend you guys for not just putting the shutters up and at least trying to make an impact and help where you can. I mean, I know that there's an element of it that's self-serving as well, but you're putting your right foot forward in that process. So, I mean, kudos to you guys for helping out and doing what you can do, even if it's only keeping 9 people employed and making X amount of meals a week, but
it matters.
It's commendable.
It matters. So what do you hope we all learn from this shit show? What do you hope us as a human race can be better for? Like what?
I will say that I think we've both been surprised at the community of support and resilience that people who have been kicked in the stomach have already shown.
Yeah.
That we're all in the same boat and we're all trying to help each other, and we're an incredibly strong community of people when put together and when faced with the same difficulties. I think we come together, and I think the people who believe that and are part of that will come out stronger. This is also a situation that financially isn't so far off of anything that we could have ever dreamed of. Like the circumstances around it are very foreign to us, but
Sure.
It's not the first time that the two of us have had to pick and choose, which utilities to pay and which vendors to pay and not take a paycheck. So, it's an unfortunate situation, but the restaurant community is a community that's used to hardship and used to having to make the most of a really difficult situation. So with that said, I will say that so much hasn't changed. And I think that makes us stronger and potentially more capable to pivot and pick ourselves back up after a dramatic situation like this. It's all we know,
Yeah.
We've been knocked down before, and we know that laying on the floor and feeling sorry for ourselves isn't really an option.
That is very true. I mean, it's a very resilient and ambitious group of people. And I mean, how many times have you seen a chef have to close a concept down and open something up again a couple months later? So, I mean, I have no doubt it'll rebound. It makes me really sad for like an area like where we live, because I feel like we haven't necessarily peaked. Like it hasn't gotten so over infiltrated yet, but like everybody was kind of starting to get super comfortable with where they were, and like these really great concepts were popping up, and now it's like, like it's a hard wall to run into.
For sure, but those creative people still exist, and
no doubt.
Yeah,
find an outlet for their creativity regardless of the circumstances. So it's not like those people, won't have anything to offer when this is all over.
Yeah,
no doubt.
How about the takeaway for Hudson? What do you hope the kids, specifically your kid, takes away from this? I mean, 5, 10,
and not that all homeschooling parents are alcoholics, because I feel like that's what a lot of kids are going to take away that.
My mommy and daddy day drink all day long and try to teach me algebra.
He lives a very different reality than a lot of his friends do, though. Yes, he still goes and sits on the couch and plays video games and watches YouTube. But at the same time, he goes on hospital drops with us and sits in the car and sees how important the work we're doing is, and sees how hard our employees are working for the amount of money that they're making. And it's an important thing for us to show him, and we feel for him to see that he's not sheltered in this little bubble, and he sees everything that's going on around him.
Well, and then
I'm not surprised to hear that after everything you said on your episode. I would have imagined that would have been your guys' answer.
Nothing. I have my speaker for me. But I think he's at the perfect age, selfishly, for this as well.
Yep.
Just because he doesn't, honestly, selfishly, he doesn't require too much. He's able to speak to us. I mean, you have a 4-year-old, and that's something different versus my sister has an infant, and
okay.
she has to work, but she's like this all day long.
Yeah.
Or our neighbors have a senior in high school, and that the way that it's affecting her is completely nuts, just because it's her big year. It's her big senior year, and she's missing it. And so selfishly, again, for him to be 12 years old and he can sit and play video games, this sucks for him. It sucks for all the kids.
But he's also been super helpful.
He's super helpful, but he's still at that age. I'm thankful that he's not me when I was 15 years old or 16.
Right.
I would have been I was a dick.
Sure.
And so he's so sweet. He's at that age where he comprehends what's going on, but it's also not the senior year that he's going to remember the senior year. What was your senior year like? Well, I sat in my room and I played video games.
Yeah. The impact will still be there, but the effects of the impact may be a little bit different.
Exactly.
Because of where he is.
I saw your face.
He hears them.
Hello.
Oh, hey Hudson. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Actually, I feel like maybe these guys already knew what you looked like.
You want your food.
Our kids haven't even made it on our podcast before. So, kudos to you for being the first kid on the podcast.
We're a podcast about kids and dads, and we've never had a kid on.
We call it Adult Island, right?
Love it.
Love it. Well, guys.
Nick and Brooke, thank you. Thank you for doing our COVID check-in with us, and thanks for sharing your story. And we'll make sure that we pump out the nuggets of information that we took away here. And all the best with you guys. And keep tabs on you and all the luck and your creativity, and keep crushing it.
Thank you.
For whatever today's crushing it means.
Yeah.
Banana bread.
Banana bread. Banana bread.
Oh, with spoons on top of it. Oh, it's so good.
Banana bread and bourbon at 5:30. I mean, hey, there you go, right?
Your jeans. Nobody ever needs to wear jeans again.
No jeans again. No jeans again. All right. Hey, guys, enjoy your dinner, and we'll look forward to catch up with you guys again real soon.
Thanks.
Take care, guys. Thanks.